I've got a pile of news to make up for the missed show on Friday. My sincerest apologies, as I was caught out of town unexpectedly with no recording gear. We have another Model S fire, outages of app and nav, support for Tesla's sales model, and much more. Here are your Tesla tidbits for August 15th, 2016. The front end of the episode is unfortunately loaded with bad news, but we get to some good news at the end. We start with Tesla's summer-long electric road trip tour that stopped in Biarritz, France, to showcase the Model S and Model X this weekend. Unfortunately, the showcase took a turn for the worse as a Model S caught fire during a test drive. Now, before I start into the meat of the story, it should be noted that statistically, electric cars suffer fires at an equal rate as their internal combustion engine power counterparts, but it seems that EVs on fire is a more newsworthy story for some reason. According to Electrek, the vehicle being driven suddenly made a loud noise and popped a visual alert on the dash stating that there was a charging problem. The Tesla employee immediately told the driver to park the car, and then another passenger exited the car. The car caught fire moments later, according to witnesses. The car was a complete loss, but all involved were safe. The interesting note to this particular story is that all previous fires occurred after striking something with the battery pan before its titanium reinforcement had occurred. This fire occurred with no apparent impact, which is quite troubling. Tesla released the following statement to Electrek, quote, "We are working with the authorities to establish the facts of the incident and to offer our full cooperation. The passengers are all unharmed. They were able to safely exit the vehicle before the incident occurred," end quote. Next up, Tesla owners in many major U.S. cities today had no mobile internet. Teslarati reports that Monday afternoon saw widespread outages of AT&T's 3G and LTE services in cities across the United States, including Los Angeles, Daytona Beach, Minneapolis, Sarasota, Indianapolis, and many other locations. Calls from owners to Tesla support received confirmation of an issue that was, quote, Tesla's problem, system-wide, and they're working it, end quote. The hits just keep coming today as the information reports that Bill Chen, head of the Maps and Navigation Engineering projects at Tesla, is no longer with the company. Both parties confirmed the departure but did not elaborate. He is the man credited with working to create the high-precision maps needed to enable higher levels of autonomous driving. He also was allegedly at work on a project to replace Google Maps as the nav system in all Tesla vehicles. The Wall Street Journal joins with Car and Driver magazine in saying that it believes Model 3 will not be on time. Electrek gets reporting credit due to the journal's paywall here. Their article distills the journal to its point that they're stuck on Elon's self-admitted impossible date of July 1st next year, which he himself doesn't expect to hit. They miss his point that he had to draw a line in the sand somewhere for all suppliers to have the same goal to shoot for, which he reaffirmed in the most recent earnings call. Let's also not forget that Tesla's official statement on deliveries has always been late 2017. Now, many fans have been getting riled up over the media doubt of Tesla being able to deliver cars on time. However, the problem is that until Tesla finally hits a date, this is actually healthy skepticism. When you're fairly infamous for never hitting dates, is it any surprise if nobody believes you when you set one? For those of us holding Model 3 reservations, here's hoping they can prove the skeptics wrong, but I, for one, am literally banking on the fact that they'll be late. If they're actually on time, I'll not be anywhere near getting the car I'd like. To start into some good news on this episode, Electrek reports that the Sierra Club, a non-profit environmentalist organization, set out to find the state of the zero-emissions vehicle shopping experience. Visiting 308 dealerships and stores across 13 automakers in 10 states, the results were pretty much what fans of Tesla might expect. Tesla's doing it right, and nobody else is close. This is an interesting contrast to the earlier story we had where Tesla was dead last in traditional sales metrics and tactics. Electrek pulled the following as one of the most salient quotes from the study, quote, "Our volunteers told us that nearly half the time EVs were not displayed prominently and that the plug-in cars were often hard to find on a dealership lot. Many volunteers told us that salespeople they spoke with neglected to inform them of state and federal incentives that could lower the cost of an EV. Some people even found themselves unable to test drive an EV because the dealership had failed to charge it," end quote. Further, at two of the most mainstream brands in the U.S., Chevy and Ford, 1 out of every 5 test drive requests were denied because the cars were not charged sufficiently. But the fun doesn't stop there. Here are some of the most interesting quotes from a handful of the mystery shoppers. From a Ford dealer in California, quote, "They had no EVs in stock. I was told they didn't have the charging infrastructure because it would cost $150,000 for the dealer to get it," end quote. From a Volkswagen dealer in Maine, quote, "There were no EVs in stock, and he stated that he has no interest in ever selling an electric vehicle. He said the only way he would sell an EV is if VW forced him to," end quote. And lastly, from a Ford dealer in New York, quote, senior sales staff had no idea what battery electric vehicles range was. He called it a go-kart, end quote. This study should nearly make Tesla's case for it every time it goes to court for one of these franchise battles. This is downright embarrassing, and these automakers should be ashamed. Finally, and a bit more of good news, it looks like the 100D variants of Model S and Model X are a bit closer to official. While we had a hacker find some code hidden in the car's operating system alluding to the 100 kilowatt-hour battery, Teslarati has the story that the EU's coded approval system has been deciphered and reveals approval for the vehicles. In EU countries, all vehicles must be validated by a, quote, authorized approving company, end quote, before being sold in the EU. Tesla uses a Dutch company called RDW, who we've talked about on the show before. A site called Kenteken.tv did the analysis of the publicly available records and released the results. Check the link in the show description to see the sleuth work they did, as it's quite impressive in my book. Speaking of that show description, you can find all the links to the full stories from the show there. If you get some value out of the show, please consider supporting the podcast at patreon.com/Tesla Tidbits. Any and all support goes directly to my Model 3 fund and is most appreciated. Thanks again to my super patron John Waltauer for his support, but if you got no spare change, it's not any problem. You can still show support without spending a dime through positive reviews, likes, and subscriptions on services such as YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, and more, or by spreading word of the show to other Tesla lovers. If you have questions or feedback for me, you can reach me via email by messaging podcast@teslatidbits.com or on Twitter @TeslaTidbits. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the long episode, and again, my apologies for the missed show. It's the first in 67, and if I can keep up my rate of roughly 4 per year, I think I can be happy with that, and I hope you can too. I'll see you back here again tomorrow. Until then, keep it charged and hit the road.